Hey everyone, welcome back to Tattoos and Gurus podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Raleigh Bayaca. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, such an honor to be here, man. Thank you.
Raleigh has extensive experience in the military, law enforcement, and as a private security protector. Let's start out by telling us where you were born and what your upbringing was like.
Oh man, I don't know if we have time for that. I'm kind of old, man. So born in the East Coast. Both my parents are from the Philippines, but they didn't meet until they came to the States. My mom went to nursing school in the Philippines, moved to New Jersey. My dad joined the Navy when the Navy was established in the Philippines. So he joined the United States Navy, came out here where they met and had me and my three older brothers. Then we traveled all the way across we did Chicago, and then we finally landed in Southern California, where I pretty much was born, pretty much raised my whole life. Parents were super strict. Mom was extremely strict. So we're Filipino. We're typical Asian family. Can't do anything but go to school, just get good grades and live the American dream. That's it. Make money, right? So it was tough for me because growing up, I had learning differences. So I wasn't like my brothers. My mom is very, very rough around the edges, let's just say the least. So she'll tell it how it is. If you're fat, she'll tell you straight up, you're fat, right? If you're skinny, she'll tell you straight up, you're skinny. If you're ugly, she'll say you're ugly. And if you're doing dumb things, she's saying you're stupid and you're dumb. So
That's a good mom.
Yeah, no, she's super real. And because of my learning differences, I had poor impulse decision making. I was doing things that most people would probably think twice before they do it. I ended up in the ER multiple times, to the point where growing up, CPS kept coming to my house and questioning it because I kept going to the ER.
What was one of the things that you did that was questionable that got you in the ER?
So, one time we were really little. My brother was chasing me around the house, and I jumped on top of my dad's office chair with the wheels, and I was sliding across the kitchen, and I hit the counter, and the counter is super sharp. Cracked my head open, was knocked out, probably out for a couple of days.
Damn.
Woke up in the hospital, was just like, what's going on? Got a pretty gnarly scar still there. The other time was playing football, broke my collarbone. I played football in the street and went for a catch that was way out of bounds. And I just went for it, dove for it, went down a hill, broke my collarbone, didn't say anything to my mom until we were going to dinner. We were eating dinner at the table, and she's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, nothing. It's just totally dropped like this. She's touching. I was like, ah. So she took me to the ER, and that's when they were starting to question, because I kept going to the ER for broken arms, broken fingers, feet, whatever. And the social worker was asking me, do your parents hit you? I said, yeah. It's like as if that's a normal thing. And they asked, like, where did they hit you? I said, usually they spank me in the butt. And they're like, for what? When I do stupid stuff like this? And they're like, oh, okay.
So you were an active kid, a happy kid, landing yourself in the ER every now and then, growing up on naval bases. And what was that life like as a kid growing up on bases?
Well, it was fun for me. I had my three brothers that every time we moved somewhere, I always had them. We were close in age, we're about a year and a half apart. About 2 years, year and a half apart. So we're really close. And I grew up in 70s, 80s, man. Like, things were different back then. Like, I remember Halloween being like Halloween. Everyone dressed up, man. Nowadays, people just dress up to look cool, and they go ring someone's doorbell, ask for trick or treat candy, and I'm like, what are you dressed up as? So growing up in the Navy was cool. The base, like going on base with my dad, was like super fun, because he was a supervisor at what he did. He was a cook. Back then, they didn't allow people from the Philippines to have certain jobs. So one of the jobs he chose, which I'm happy for, because I like to eat. He was a cook, so he was an E6 by the time I remember going to his work, because I was sick, And it's funny seeing my dad like chew out people because he wasn't that guy at home. And it's these big dudes that he's chewing out, and he has a heavy accent. And I'm like, I don't even know if they know what he's saying. But and you were in the Navy, so you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And he's chewing them out, and then he just looks at me and he winks at me like that. And they're like, he's telling them to get me food, and they're like serving me food. So it was pretty cool being a son of a supervisor at the Navy.
Man, that is awesome. Did your experience growing up in a military family inspire you to join the Army?
Yes and no. Because I didn't do so well in school, couldn't even play sports. My GPA scores was just really bad. So I couldn't even play organized ball. So I'd always play leagues that you didn't have to have to show your report cards. I was trying to go to a vocational school for nursing. My mom paid a lot of money out of her own pocket, but I couldn't pass the course, but they kept taking me back. And then anyways, so I decided, me and my buddy were going to community college, and we were looking at each other like, what are we doing here, man? We're wasting our time. We go to college, but we're not going to class. Like, we're just hanging out here, wasting time. And all my brothers and all my friends already went to different universities and state colleges. So we were just hanging out every day, doing nothing, not even working. So we went to the recruiter's office, and I felt like, well, if my dad can do it, he can barely speak English, and he can make I think he retired as an E7, and he can make pretty good rank. And I think I could do that too. But I didn't want to do what my dad did. I was like, let me try something different. So I went into the MEP station, took the test, and my GT scores were not that high. I wanted something in the medical field because that's what my mom was sending me to at that vocational school, was somewhere in the medical field. So I wanted something I could get when I get out. I only wanted to do one term, one contract, and went in, and they were offering me positions that wasn't appealing to what I wanted to do. I was like, nah. So I walked out there because my GT scores were super low. A E7 staff sergeant walks up to me, and he's fully decorated, big guy, big square jaw, high and tight haircut, Southern accent. He's like, hey, son, I can get you what you want. I said, and I'm looking at him. I'm just like, dude, he's got his Class A uniform. He's got all the tabs, all the cool guy tabs. This is what a guy is supposed to be like. This is what a real man looks like. I want to be you. He says, well, I could get you what you want. You just got to do it in the reserves. I was like, what's that? He says, well, you go to your boot camp, and then you go to your advanced individual training, which is a combat medic, 91 Bravo. That's what they called it back then. And then you go home, and we assign you to a duty station that's near your house that you report every month for a weekend. And then every year you go around he said every year you could go around the world for like 2 weeks, once a year, and you make a lot of money. And that's the only thing I heard was make a lot of money. So I said, where do I sign? Did that, and that's how I ended up in the reserves.
And what was boot camp like for you?
Man, it was a culture shock. It was tough. It was tough for me. My boot camp was 2 months in Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood. We used to call it Fort Lost in the Woods, during the winter time. And I ended up, I ended up getting walking pneumonia in boot camp, but they didn't want to treat me because I didn't see the signs, or I guess I was trying to go to medical towards the end, and they're already like, you're done with the boot camp. Like, we're trying to get you out of here. You need to go to your AIT because you're out of our hands. Like, and we don't want to keep you here. So ended up going from Missouri to Texas, where I ended up finding out that I had pneumonia, and that was rough. That was super rough. But boot camp was fun. I had to wear those BCGs.
Yep.
The birth control glasses.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can clarify that for the audience, BCGs, birth control glasses. And how did a pair of eyeglasses get the name BCG?
BCGs, because they're so unattractive when you wear it. Like, you can't get anybody pregnant. No one wants to know who you are. But you know what's funny is, like, those big thick frames are like cool right now.
Yep.
That's in. So I wouldn't wear it. I still wear contacts. Funny thing though about BCGs is during the wintertime, I always had trouble wearing them because they would fog up. And when you go on these long ruck marches or humps, whatever you want to call it, and you had to wear all the gear, you're sweating, you can't see through it. When you go through the basic rifleman's rifle marksmanship, learn how to shoot a rifle, the rear sight would fill with water because during the winter it rained and it like splashed against my glasses, and I have to take my cheek off the buttstock and I'm wiping it. And so towards the end, we had a qual for marksmanship, and I'm failing every practice. I couldn't pass because of these darn glasses. So I decided the day of, I'm gonna put my contacts on, and I was super nervous. I was like, they're gonna know I put my contacts on, and I'm going against their policy of wearing BCGs. They're gonna know. And the whole time I'm freaking out that they're gonna call me out and punish me or whatever. So there's 250 people in our company at boot camp, and we have our qualification is you're in the standing position in the foxhole for 20 pop-up targets, and then you go into the prone for 20 more pop-up targets. And I kind of remembered or memorized which targets go up first, so I'm already pre-setting my rifle in that direction. And it's the 25 yard, and with the AR, you gotta lower it really low to get the center mass because the rounds jump. So I'm lowering it down there, and you hear on the PA, shooter stand by, beep. The first target goes up, and I forgot to take it off safe, and I don't it went down that fast, and I'm like, okay, just keep going, and I feel that's in the back of my head. So the whole time I'm shooting, I don't know if I'm shooting the target or it's just going down when I press the trigger. So I'm thinking, damn, I don't know if I'm hitting these things or they're just going down when I'm pressing the trigger. Well, the farthest target is a 300 yard, and these are iron sights. It looks like a pencil lead, man. And I don't know if I'm hitting it, dude. Well, I remember the last 300. I remember I got one more round that I didn't shoot for the 25. And I miss, and I just squeeze the trigger, and it goes down. And I don't even know. Drill sergeant is chewing me out. He's in my ear in the prone. He's like, "Do you even know how many targets you hit?" And I said, "Drill sergeant, I don't know, drill sergeant." He's like, "We'll find out, private." So I'm all freaking out, and they have us in formation. And if they call your name, you stand over here. If this drill sergeant calls your name, you stand over here. And they're calling everybody, and I'm the last one in formation. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my God, dude, I'm going to have to recycle. I have to call my parents, tell them, you can't fly out here, that I'm going to get cycled. So they call me up front center. You do the whole left, right, you go out of ranks, you run to the front, do about face, stand at attention. I hit the highest score out of 250 people. I hit 39 targets. The only target I missed was the first target. And they did this big award ceremony for me at graduation. So that was the first time I ever held a rifle or a firearm.
Okay, so you've got walking pneumonia, you're stressed out, you have this major rifle qualification, you're shooting from foxholes, you're shooting from prone.
Yeah.
This is the first time you've ever shot this weapon platform. You're worried about them finding out you're not wearing your prescribed BCG glasses. But did they ever say anything about that?
No. So you do your final company run, and the commander of the base goes running with you and stuff, and he goes running, and he's just running right next to me, and he's asking me questions of who I am, and he's like, if I don't know who you are, you must have been doing good. So the whole time, I remember that during the academy, I was like, dude, just be stealth mode. Don't cause any attention. That's the way to do it. That's just the way to do it. Don't make excuses. Just be low profile. That's just the way to do it. So
you bring up the academy. So you get this incredible experience in the military.
Okay.
And I also served in the reserves, and that's a whole nother beast in your life.
Yeah.
So you serve in the reserves, and how do you come upon the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department? How does that happen?
So I had 2 combat deployments. My first deployment was in 2000 in Kosovo when Bosnia went off. We went there for a peacekeeping mission, and I was in an ambulance company, so they needed ambulances to attach to hospital detachments and stuff. So my second deployment lasted about 14 months. I was in Iraq and in the initial push in 2003, and a lot of my buddies ended up getting out and going into law enforcement. My really close friends, guys that I connected with, guys that I related with, and I figured that's what I need to do. Either that or firefighting. I actually tried the firefighter department first, but that was a joke because there's no way you're going to get hired in the fire department unless you know somebody. And I remember going in line, taking the test, and the line was like thousands of people around the block. Couldn't wait for that process to go through. So signed up for or applied for multiple agencies. The only agency that I passed the test was San Bernardino. Went through their process. Rodney Gardner, if you're out there, he's my background investigator.
Rodney, shout out.
He was my background investigator. He hired me within a few months, and that's how I got hired through the Sheriff's Department.
And what year, what month and year did you start the academy?
I was in, I went through, see, I'm really bad with time, April of 2026.
Okay. And what was your class number?
168.
All right. And if you could compare boot camp to the academy, what were some like compare and contrast?
I'll tell you what, man, they're different because boot camp, you have to stay there, right? They wake you up, you only get like 4 hours of sleep, sometimes 3 hours of sleep. I think that's changed, but back then, back in the 90s, that's what they did. In the basic academy for the police academy, you get to go home. But I was sleep deprived anyways, because the amount of work that they make you do, amount of homework that make you do, and I would consider myself a perfectionist, and I was trying to be super low profile, so I didn't want to cause any attention. So I was getting 3 hours of sleep every day, doing all my reports and what are they call those?
The memos.
The memos, doing memos and studying. Like studying was because I wasn't good at school. I was doing extra hours of staying up and studying. And you know who my roommate was?
Who's that?
Jared Bashir.
Jared. Shout out to Jared.
Jared. Good guy. Becky and him are awesome couple. That's a funny story, if you don't mind me talking about that.
No, go run with it. I love Jared's stories.
So orientation, we're going in there and they're asking who's got more than a 50-mile radius of a drive to this academy. And I'm the only one that raised my hand. And he asks, where do you live? I said, Temecula. He's like, are you sure you're in the right academy? You should be going with RSO. And I'm like, dang, why did I have to raise my hand? I should have just kept my mouth shut. So Jared hits me up in the parking lot. And he's like, hey, I just graduated from San Bernardino College. We got a place right there. And I'm still living there. My roommate moved out. We got an extra room. Me and Becky are there. You're more than welcome to stay there. I was like, man, I can't afford to be like paying rent. Like I got my own mortgage I got to pay for, and I got my wife and kids I got to go home to. He's like, dude, don't worry about it. I was like, bro, you don't even know me. Like, and that's just the kind of guy Jared was. And he's like, dude, if you pass backgrounds and you got hired, there's nothing to worry about. I said, touche. I'm gonna take you up on that offer. And he says, dude, it'd be fun. It'd just be fun to like have a roommate where we can study and like do this academy together. And I was like, right on. But every day, Jared's playing video games while I'm trying to study. And I'm like, how are you not like stressed out? And he's like, I guess he was in the Explorer Academy up at Twin Peaks. He already knew the material.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of him, checking the box at the academy. This guy was super smart. And because he lived in high altitude, his running endurance was like remarkable. He was our class, our flag guy that always ran in the front. So, that's my story with Jared, how we met.
Yeah, and I don't want to turn this into the Jared show, but yeah, when a guy offers to, hey, I'll be your running mate. Little do you know, he's an ultra marathoner. So
yeah, he's a sleeper because he doesn't come off. He's such a goofy guy. Hilarious, his dry humor. He's a good dude. He's a really good dude.
So you graduate the academy. It's a 6-month academy.
Yeah.
And where'd you go after that?
6-month academy, went straight to West Valley Detention Center, where I spent most of my career because, as you know, in 2006, there was like a hiring freeze after I went through the academy. And I would hear stories of, oh, there's so much overtime. There's overtime for everyone. And I'm there and I was like, what overtime? You're not even hiring people right now. And they're like, you probably see a year in the jails and go out of patrol. And the station I wanted to go to was Rancho Cucamonga because before I became a cop, I was living in Temecula. I live in this area now. My next door neighbor was San Bernardino County Sheriff. And we were pretty close. Our kids played with each other on the streets and stuff like that. And he's like, just go on a ride along with me. And I don't know if you know Joseph Parker.
Yeah.
Solid dude, did most of his career in narcs and gangs. And he was a hunter. And when I went on the ride along with it, I went on 2 ride alongs because the first one was that fun. Got a lot of foot pursuits, caught a lot of bad guys, went to jail. I said, I want that skill set. I want to be like you. Whatever you did and wherever you went, I want to go. And that's why I went to San Bernardino. And then I was like, I want to go to Rancho Cucamonga because that was my experience. But I got stuck in the jails for 5-6 years. And I actually had a good time doing it. A lot of guys hated it, but I ended up working in a specialized unit. Do you remember were you ever at West Valley?
Yeah, I spent my time at West Valley.
Unit 15 was my unit.
Yeah.
So I was working overtime and they needed someone to work Unit 15 and no one wanted to work it. I went in there. And for the audience to know what Unit 15 is, it's a medical unit. Back then they called it UB unit, which is unusual behavior. So it's with the inmates that have mental health issues. So, you have a variety. You have GP, you have PCs, you have red suits, you have yellow and red suits, you have all kinds. You have everybody there. Excuse me. But when I worked it on the overtime, the staff is like, the staff are like, they're there every time. They don't really rotate those people there because they don't want to change out the staff because of the type of rapport they have with the inmates.
You really get to know the inmates that were housed there.
Yeah.
And the individual struggles and issues that they were having.
And I ended up working there that night. It was a graveyard shift and court pool, right?
Yeah.
You got to bring out all the inmates and get them ready. Got to put the waist chains, leg shackles, get them ready for the bus to take them to court. Well, I didn't have one single use of force. And apparently there was a lot of use of forces in that unit. And I didn't understand why. I was like, you just talk to these inmates. Like, you got to be a little patient with them because they're slow. But so that word went up to the higher ups, and I ended up being permanently there for like 5 years, which turned into something even better because they had the ROC program. Did you hear about that?
I've heard of that. What is that?
So they had. So I had 4 years working in a hospital, mental health hospital, before I became a deputy.
Okay.
I was a behavioral health counselor, and through my medical status in the Army, they recognized that, and I qualified for this position. So I worked in a locked adult facility for mental health patients. So I already knew how that worked, how to talk to the inmates or patients. So that was one thing that was difficult. Was custody says they're not patients, they're inmates. Well, medical staff says, well, we call them patients, and that was like a problem because if you call them patients, then you're an inmate lover. It was like one of those things. So the ROC program is a restoration of competency program. So what we normally do when an inmate is deemed in court through their prelim to not stand, they're incompetent to stand court, they have to go through a process and they have to go through a restoration process. So what they do is they usually send them to a state hospital where they have programs for them. They have a social worker, a psychologist, psychiatrist, nursing, and they try to get them stabilized, and then they teach them about law. They're not coaching them on their case. They're just basically trying to get them to understand what they're being charged for, why they got charged, and how do you plea. They're not saying, hey, this is what you need to do. No, it's no coaching. It's basically having them a better understanding, because they're not competent. They're not all there because either they're out of their medications or whatever the case was. But that would take so long for the state to do. By the time they came back to court, they already did time, and it just gets whatchamacallit,
like a wash of time.
It's just a wash of time, and then it's just a waste of money. So like they never did the crime. So there's this private company that came from the East Coast called Liberty, and they started that program there, and they tried to reach out other counties, San Diego, Orange County, I think LA County was one of, or Riverside County was one of the counties they tried to do this program. They all said no. And McMahon at the time was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's bring us over here. Let's start in Unit 15. Lieutenant Gein, Robert Gein was my lieutenant at the time. He pulled me over and says, hey, look, they got this program. I need you to be like the liaison. I need you to be the guy that makes sure that they're following our custody policy procedures and they're not going out of that. And he's like, what do you think about that? I was like, sure. It was like a 9-to-5 gig, Monday through Friday. I was like, yeah, of course, why not? No graveyard, no holidays. This is cool. Ended up doing that. The program was super successful. Our first year, pilot year, we saved over $2.5 million for the state of California, because these guys were getting restored like within weeks and months, instead of sending them to the state where it took them months and years.
So we were outperforming the state.
100%. But the problem with that was we had mental health in staff in our county side that looked at that as a threat, because they were going to start losing their positions for mental health, and that became a problem. So I got a lot of hate on that. Like, what are you doing?
What you learn. So you're in the mental health medical field. You were at a hospital before the sheriff's department. You were a medic in the Army.
Yeah.
You served 2 deployments overseas. Mm-hmm. You get to the sheriff's department and you assume a mental health role.
Yeah.
And you're learning and you're amassing this internal expertise.
Yeah.
And where do you go with that? So you have all this training, this tactical training and experience, this medical, mental health experience, this security experience, everything you learn throughout the sheriff's department. And how does that continue to guide you?
Oh man, it taught me a lot about leadership, because it's how you talk to people. It's tone, it's timing, and it's understanding. Like, you have to understand people. While I was in the sheriff's department, I ended up being a safety director for my church, and it's all volunteer. And they wanted a safety ministry started, and because they knew I had a military and law enforcement background, they asked me to be the director of it. And we started off with like three guys. Some were retired cops, some were active cops, and then we moved to a bigger church where it went to like almost 120 volunteers.
Wow.
And what I realized was working with volunteers is one of the hardest things to do, because they could just check out. They don't have to do anything you ask them to do.
Yeah.
And it's the art of influencing them to get them to do what you need them to do through time, tone, and patience and understanding. So that's what I learned through like the military experience. That's what I learned through law enforcement experiences is how to talk to people. And I think that helped me in a lot of things in so many different avenues.
Communication is always key, and I think it's not always what you say. It's not always how you say it. Those are very important, but also it's what the recipient hears. Mm-hmm. Because when we're communicating with people, mm-hmm. we think we're saying the right things. Mm-hmm. We think we're saying it the right way, mm-hmm. but the recipients don't always hear it that way.
No. And it's also, you have to kind of check yourself, because you might not be speaking the language that they can understand it. And so you have to like give it multiple different approaches on how to say it, because if they're not receiving it in the way, the tone, like we talked about something earlier about this person's just, he's using cuss words and they're being offended by that. Like, not everybody responds to cuss words. Like, there's a time and place for that. But you have to understand your target audience. You have to understand what their beliefs are and understand their values and morals. And if you're approaching them to a way that like they're not, it just doesn't mix and they're not aligned with those morals and values, then you're not going to receive them the way you want them to. So
would you say that your experience in the military, did that help you adapt to the sheriff's department?
The military taught me patience, because there was a lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
It's like go, 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 go. And then you're waiting for hours, days, and weeks for like, what? And law enforcement taught me resilience. Taught me you're going to fail and you just got to get back on your feet. Because that's just like, you can't make mistakes in law enforcement, because people's lives are in your hands. Yeah. You just can't do that. There's a time to make mistakes, and that's in training. Make as many mistakes as you can in training. But once you're out of training and you're doing real world stuff, that's like, it's a different level of stress. So,
and to any of our veterans out there who might be thinking about a career in law enforcement, would you recommend they take a look into that?
Absolutely. So I wasn't the kind of guy that always wanted to be a cop. I mean, I watched a lot of movies like Bad Boys and Colors and all those cop movies, and I thought that's pretty cool. I grew up with two older brothers that got into a lot of stuff, and we always got pulled over by cops, and like it was the sheriff's department that was more tough than the police department, and I'm like, damn, these guys are jerks. So it was something that I always wanted to do. Like I said, I kind of went into it because I thought that was what I was supposed to do because of what my friends were doing. But if you were going to go into it, one, I would encourage doing multiple ride-alongs. Understand and do your research. Do your research on the department. Do your research. And the best way and the reason why I say do ride-alongs is like talk to the person that you're riding along with. Ask them what they like about the department. Really, really dive into the cities that you want to work in. Like if you want to go to patrol, like do a ride along in those cities and find out what that city's like and how they do work there. Because every patrol station has a different culture. Yeah. Even though it's the same department, there's a different culture. And that's something I didn't take advantage of. I did one or two ride-alongs and I was like, I fell in love with it. But I didn't do multiple ride-alongs with multiple people and get their perspective on it. And I thought it was just going to be how it was like my first experience on a ride-along or what it's like in the movies, and it's nothing like that. It's a lot of desk work, 90% desk work, and probably like 5-10% like action, in my opinion.
All right. You had brought up earlier on when you were taking that rifle course in the Army, and with you're in the foxholes, and that's the first time you learned shooting, and you've come a long way. Mm-hmm. So you have your tactical prowess that you've developed, okay, and your physical fitness. I mean, you are in very good shape. I remember the first time I saw you, and you were doing muscle ups. I remember that. And I thought, oh man, like this guy is dope. I mean,
I remember you yelling out there. He's like, those are good muscle ups.
You've always been in very good shape.
Thank you.
And you train people now. So you've gone from not knowing how to shoot a rifle, mm-hmm, not even knowing if you were hitting your target, mm-hmm, to now you're teaching people how to shoot.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, so you know how we have quarterly training for use of force training. That was the only time I actually would shoot my pistol. And I found that I'm actually pretty good at it. And so I started doing competition shooting recently. I'm still a novice in that. I'm not like some grandmaster. But a buddy of mine who is put me with all the pros, and that's nerve-wracking. When you go in with the guys that are shooting like split-second shots and and I'm still at the holster, and but that type of stress level helped me become a better shooter. And I found out that I'm actually pretty good, and I'm getting better and better at it. But um, and there's a lot of people reaching out to me on, like, because they see my videos on Instagram, and they want to learn how to shoot. And that's basically how it started, is people reaching out to me, and I'll take them to the range, just show them the basic stuff. Uh, the most important thing is just the safety part of it. Everything else is just repetition. So I focus a lot on the safety stuff, because, as you know, you can have a negligent discharge in the locker room
Hey,
with guys with 10 to 15 years on the department, or even, I don't know, even SWAT guys can do stuff like that too.
they happen. Negligent discharges happen.
Yeah.
Master grip always.
100. I mean, you follow those 3 rules. If you're not following those 3 rules, something bad's going to happen. So 4 rules. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're helping people learn how to shoot accurately. You're teaching firearm safety, which is very important. Are you also helping people get fit and learn about nutrition?
Yes and no. I get a lot of guys that I mentor for free. I do this for free. Maybe I should start a business, because I'm connected with a company called Unchained Fit. Anthony Autry's one of my buddies. He dialed me into my diet. I'm almost 50, so I was like, I need to do something. I need to change what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is not working. So he got me dialed in through using the macros system. He prescribed me macros, and once I got dialed on that, he had a workout regimen, but he says, just do your workout regimen, because your fitness is pretty good. I followed his program, and I shredded a lot of weight. And a lot of people are reaching out to me about that. So I said, hey, look, you could be part of the team. I could coach you, or you can get some real coaching through Anthony, and he'll get you dialed in. And now we have a community of guys that are on the team, and they're just shredded. And all it is just sticking to the program and being consistent. And what I like about it,
there's not some deep
there's
dark secret.
Nothing secret about it, man. There's people. I shredded like 12 pounds just by following the program the first 2 weeks. I went from almost 250 to now I just weighed myself at 222, and I was in the program for like 9 months. I'm a little struggling to get off that weight because of the holidays.
Yeah.
But I'm getting back on the program.
So can you explain how important is it what you eat, and what are macros? What are macronutrients?
Oh man. So macronutrients is it's 3 basic types of things that you focus on: protein, fats, and carbs. And the way it was prescribed to me is I do 60% protein. I'm doing the math in my head. 30% 30% carbs, and the rest fats. So my fats are the lowest. And what I found out when I was dialing my food on the fitness app was, like, my fats are extremely high. And that's just because Filipinos eat a lot of fatty foods. I love fried chicken. I love dark meat. And once I started cleaning that up, just by tweaking little things here and increase, and I knew I wasn't eating enough protein, but when you actually see it on numbers, you're like, man, I am not eating, not even close to the amount of protein that I should be having. So I should, like, the rule of thumb is every pound equals to every gram of protein. So if you're 200 pounds, you should be eating 200 grams of protein. I was barely making 150 a day. Yeah. But once I increased the protein and started lowering my fats, it just melted off. It was like science. And there's little tricks here and there that you can do to increase your protein, and just eating clean meat. Like, I don't even touch red meat. It's just white meat, chicken or tilapia or whitefish. That's it.
So if people are out there and they're struggling, because there's a lot of people struggling with nutrition, and it's difficult to understand for them, or it's the impulses are really hard for people to overcome, especially when they're out with friends or family, and there's a lot of food at the table. So one way that people can really help to control their nutrition is if they weigh their food, and they can figure out how much protein, fats, and carbs to take in?
Yeah. So, like, if you think about it, like what you think is a teaspoon of honey is, if you don't measure it, if you don't actually measure it by like the macro measurements, you're actually probably hurting yourself like 3, probably 5 times more. You know, like some people think a scoop of rice is just like, they just eye it, but when you actually weigh it, you're like putting double on your plate.
Yeah.
And it could be something, your calories that you're supposed to be eating is like under 1,800 calories, but next thing you know, by the end of the day, if you don't map it out or you don't measure it, you're actually eating probably 3,000 calories, because what you're eyeing versus what you're measuring is not matching up. So the math ain't mathing.
Yeah. Hey, well, there you go. As far as really good nutrition advice, measure your food, weigh it out. So I want to get into you made a career pivot and you entered into the private sector, and you have some really good things that you're doing right now. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah. So I when I left the sheriff's department, I actually didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have a plan. By the grace of God, he introduced me to somebody at my church. After a year of working for the church, he owned a private security company, Justin Matoyer, Ninth Shield Company.
Shout out, Justin.
The Ninth Shield. Then they're based out of here. He told me, hey, you could, with your background, we could do a lot of good things. And I didn't want anything to do with the protector space. I was done with that lifestyle, a lot of that hut stuff. I was like, I don't want any more stress in my life, man. This is like, I'm getting old. And that was something that I realized is like, I'm not getting old. I'm actually just getting started. And if once you start changing that mindset of like, things aren't over, things are just getting started, and you can do things that you never thought you can, you just have to be, you have to really get into that mindset of positivity. Once you start doing that self-negative talk, yeah, you're going to be stagnant. But once you start reinforcing it with positive thinking, things start to open up. So I started in the private security doing, uniform stuff. And I'm like, why am I doing this again? I'm in a uniform doing these things, doing festivals, working for celebrities. And then I got into the executive protection side, which is working for politicians, dignitaries, ultra high net worth clients. And that's kind of like where my specialty is. So I do that, where I have a full-time gig, and the principal and the family take really good care of me. So a lot of guys reach out to me in that perspective that know when I did law enforcement or military, and they're trying to get into the private security sector. They're always asking about, how did you do it? What do you do? And I would mentor them. It's what's weird about that is you just got to put in the work. And everyone wants things to just be handed to you, but you have to put in the work. And what makes it easy for me being in military and law enforcement, you're pushing the sled. That's a lot of work. When you go in the private sector and people don't have that hard work experience, like, you can thrive pretty fast in the private security industry, which I found myself doing recently.
So you're helping protect people. You're training people how to shoot. You are mentoring people on fitness and nutrition. And man, how do you have time for anything else? Do you have anything else going?
Yeah. I mean, my wife and kids, like, it sounds like it's busy. It's just a matter of your priorities, and protocols. Right. So we talked about this earlier. Like, you wake up at 3:00 in the morning, man.
Yeah.
I start my day around, sometimes I wake up at 3, not because I want to, it's just sometimes my body just says, get up.
Yep.
And I'll start my day at 4:00, and it's about having protocols. Like, you have to have a routine, and I front load everything in the beginning of my day. Front load all my protocols, meaning I get up, I do my prayer, I do my worshiping, I read my Bible, and then I go to work, and then I hit my emails, and then I do my phone calls, and then I always put in at least, one of my mentors told me this: do an hour with God and an hour in your skill set. every single day, and try to improve yourself every day. And then an hour with your family. Everything else is just work. So I try to prioritize my time with God, prioritize my time with my family, and then my skill set. So I'm always trying to improve and do something. That's just the way my brain works. Is like I always want to try something new and try to get better at it.
Victory through Christ, faith, family, fitness.
Yeah. Those
are important to you.
Yeah, and it has to be in that order. It has to be faith, family, and fitness. Because you know, I got saved about going on 10 years now, and that changed the whole pivot of my life. Through a lot of the stuff that I went through, military and law enforcement, I struggled with a lot of like stress, depression, all the things that come with, that type of work that everybody has. I don't care who you are. Everybody has it at some type of level. When it came to Christ, there's three voices that you will hear, right? You'll hear your voice, which is all your desires and wants, lustful desires, addiction, whatever. The enemy's voice, which is the devil's voice, which is all lies, which is your insecurities, all the doubts, all the things that you can't be better than anybody else. This doesn't work out. Or you can hear God's voice, which is the truth. Most of my time, I was listening to the other two voices because I couldn't hear God's voice because I wasn't focused on God. I was focused on my career. I was focused on my image. I was focused on what other people thought, which was taking over my head noise. But once I focused on God, I learned the truth. I learned that I could do these things. I learned that nothing else matters. Like, who cares what everyone else thinks? It's not about them. It was me versus my anti-self. Is what one of my buddies would say. It's like, it's always me. Your anti-self is always telling you can't do these things. But when you know who you are and whose you are, meaning if you know that you're a son of God and God is the creator and he's the only true God and he created the earth and you're a son of his, if you're an adopted son of his kingdom, man, that brings a lot of power, because that same power of the Holy Spirit that rose Jesus from the dead, like, we inherit that if we're a believer. And there's so much things that can come out of that. And once I realized that I'm a son of God, like, things just changed in my life. I saw the truth. I started taking care of my health. I started taking care of my family. My priorities changed, and I found that there's a different way of living life than to live for other people and for their expectations.
Your relationship with God, how does that influence your decision making?
So morals and values. If I'm working for a company, I have to be aligned with their morals and values. So a lot of companies I do work for are faith-based companies. I've worked with a lot of companies that don't have those same beliefs, and they just turn into a headache. I'm working for clients that, I don't like working for a lot of celebrities because of their lifestyle. And I'm okay with that. I'm in the position where I could say no to work because I have plenty of work that comes to me. But that just catches me in a lot of problems that I don't want to get into. When I'm working for companies where I'm aligned with, things just work out better for me. The stress level is different. I don't have to worry about not getting paid because their integrity is there. And I just want to be surrounded by like-minded people. My circle is small, but like if I'm working for a company that we're super aligned, I just don't have to worry about the other stuff, if you know what I mean. That's hard to explain.
I do. And man, we have learned so much about you on this podcast, and thank you so much for you opened up to us and shared a lot of your inner self. If you had one last message for our audience out there, if you wanted to speak to people that might be feeling lost, They're out of shape. They're overweight. They have a lot of head noise going on that you spoke about. If you had just any last advice for them on how they could improve themselves, their lives, their family lives, and get back on track, what would that be?
Oh man.
I know that was a lot.
Yeah. uh, just get right with God, man. When you can hear that voice of God, when you know what truth is, um, and then you follow that truth, uh, things just start to open up. Um, because if you listen to the lies, like we're so plugged in on our phones,
Yeah.
like there's just too much junk that we're being consumed by. And if you just take that moment to just put that to the side and just be right with God, like He will speak to you. Um, and He doesn't speak loud; He speaks quietly, and you have to be willing and really wanting to hear it. And once you find that truth, things start to open up. You get more clarity, you get more confirmation. You're not worried about all these other things that people are concerned about on social media. Um, so that would be one thing that I would say is the first thing to do. Um, you're not too old to do anything. Um, One of the best advice I got was, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. And that's those guys that have all these excuses to not do anything because they're fighting for those excuses and crutches in life. If you stop fighting for those things, um, you know, if you keep fighting for it, you're going to get to keep it. You're not going to do anything in life. You're just going to be stagnant in life. If you go and learn, it's okay to make mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
people make mistakes all the time. Make those mistakes, because that's where you're growing. If you don't make those mistakes, you're just being uh, you're just going to be the same person. You're never going to grow. Uh, so yeah, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep it, and have your three. Even Jesus had his three. He had disciples of 12, but he had his three: Peter, James, and John. And what I mean by having your three is have someone that's going to tell you the truth all the time. Have your 0300 guy, the guy that's you call at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's going to come to your house and do whatever he needs to do to help you with whatever you need. And then have someone that's going to give you godly counsel. And you have those three, and sometimes they're not the same three. Sometimes it might be 4 or 5 guys. It might be a different three every different season in your life. But have those three that you can go to, and keep your circle small, man. I guess that's it.
Man, that is really good advice. And we have some people out there that if they're interested in getting a hold of you and connecting with you about executive protection, about firearms training, fitness, nutrition, how can they get a hold of you?
So I have my own side hustle, LSK Solutions. People always ask me, what does LSK stand for? So I was trying to mix family, faith, and my business together. So LSK is the initial of my wife and 2 girls, Leslie, Sydney, Casey. And then, well, how can I make that into faith? Well, Lord, Savior, King is Jesus Christ. And then, well, how do I fit that into my business? Life-saving knowledge. So I do a safety security consulting, anything in that realm of safety and security. So I could teach active shooter training to the basic civilian on how to respond to those types of things. I had a contract with San Bernardino School District for 2 years where I was teaching educators how to respond to active shooter training. I go and teach churches on how to build their safety ministries. I'll go to other private schools because they can't afford security for their school. I'll teach them how to build up and how to set up layers of protection for their schools. I'll do an assessment, a threat assessment. I'll do an assessment on their building and what things they need to improve and how to make their soft target a harder target. So you could reach out to me on. I only have social media right now as my advertisement. So LSK Solutions is my handle.
Okay, LSK Solutions, and that's on Instagram?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and send you a DM?
Yeah, hit me up DM and then we'll chat.
Okay. Hey, folks, there you have it. Another great episode. Thank you, Raleigh Bayaca, so much for being on the show. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Hey, everyone. I'm Goldie, your host of the Tattoos and Gurus podcast. And we are looking for gurus to come on the show. So if you've got lessons learned and motivational stories that you want to share with our audience, hit me up on Instagram at Tattoos and Gurus, and I'll talk to you soon.